What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Barking for Balance, the podcast where we talk about dogs, but we also can talk about whatever it is that is meant to teach, inspire, and entertain. I am Pat, the Packman, dog behavior and rehabilitation specialist at Packman to the Rescue, Canine Solutions and Coaching. And I want to welcome you newcomers. I want to welcome the old comers. We're not calling old comers. We'll call them the awesome supporters. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. This podcast is meant to teach, inspire, and entertain. And it's also meant for me to speak Siciliano. So hold on to your notebooks if you want to learn another language. I'm going to teach you a little bit of Sicilian. I'm going to throw some Sicilian words out there. If you have not seen this podcast before, it is all about dogs, 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 but not how to train dogs. It's to do what, my faithful supporters? It's exactly right. It's about training people, not training dogs. You heard correct. It's about training people, not training dogs. So that's what we do at Packman to the Rescue, Canine Solutions and Coaching. If you have subscribed to the podcast, thank you. Finally, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. On a serious note, I want to thank all of you supporters. And you've been awesome. And if you're new to the podcast, make sure you subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and on what's the other one there? I forgot the other one. We are on YouTube, of course. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also make sure you follow us on social media on Facebook and on Instagram under Packman to the Rescue. That's PACKMAN to the Rescue. This way you could take a look at all our cool stuff, all our announcements, all our cool videos, and just everything's cool on the social media platform. And so, yeah, make sure that you follow us there, Packman to the Rescue, Canine Solutions and Coaching, and it's at Packman to the Rescue, PACKMAN to the Rescue. That's spelled out TO, not the number. And also, again, on the podcast, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, and Spotify. That's one of the ones I forgot. I don't remember which one I forgot before, but that's the platform. YouTube, I'll remind you guys in a little while. On today's podcast, you're saying, listen, you got to tell people what to do, because this way they learn what it is that their dogs want. I also make sure that people are happy, they're successful, they're fulfilled, much like their dogs are happy, successful, fulfilled, and well-behaved, not well-trained. It's like with this well-trained crap. Well-trained dog owners, well-trained humans, knowledge about psychology of the dog. All right, so let's get into a couple of things. And I want to talk a little bit about, based on the fact that, it's about training people. What is the proper way to love a dog? That's an easy one, right? Not so fast. There's a little twist on this one. Also, I want to talk about stop putting labels. Jesus Christ. San Giuseppe Benedetto. Me fanno incazzare. I get so aggravated when it comes to the labeling. And this is also something that's very personal for people. So this could pertain to dogs, but it also could pertain to people. And so that's what I said. Packman to the Rescue. I'm sorry, Barking for Balance. It's still the same thing. It's all part of the same family. It's all part of the same family, And so it's about training people, not training dogs, but it's about humans. Humans are the driving force to well-behaved dogs, well-mannered dogs, but also sound and happy and fulfilled dogs. That's really the name of the game. Being a dog that's happy, fulfilled, and well-behaved. That's what we need to do. And that's what we're going to learn about on what to do on Barking for Balance and from Packman to the Rescue. You also get some snippets on the social media, on Facebook and Instagram, about some of our virtual sessions, which I really want you to look at, because there's some good advice and some good tips in there as well. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, because there's a lot of good videos there anyway. So, but let's kick this off about proper way to love a dog. Isn't that easy? Everybody loves a dog. It's easy. Just give them the world. Just spoil them. No, and that is not the proper way to love a dog. Listen, nobody loves dogs more than me. Well, I'm sure people love dogs more than me in the incorrect fashion. From an emotional standpoint, I'm not sure. Because if you really, really, truly love a dog, what your focus should be, in all honesty, is on providing what your dog needs from you in order to be happy and fulfilled. That's really what the bottom line is. And a lot of times, a lot of people believe that is all about spoiling, like you just give them everything, let them do whatever they want. And in their mind, that is loving a dog. Well, I'm here to tell you that cannot be farther from the truth. Is it part of the equation? Absolutely. So part of the equation is to spoil them. Listen, Socks and Pepper are spoiled rotten. Bedamachi. I mean, I'm just looking at my treat jars for Socks and Pepper. And I'm actually going to post a picture of this on Facebook and Instagram just to prove it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 containers, 8 containers filled with a variety of different types of treats. Yeah, 8 containers, toys galore. Their beds, Jesus Christ, their beds are better than mine. Granted, at night they sleep in the real bed, but still, they got beds all over. They got 3, 2 in their crates, 1 that's out here that they share and they love. This is part of the spoiling process. Absolutely. They get taken care of. They get, fresh, human food. They get steak, they get fish, they get pasta. Tutte cose ci faccio mangiare io. Jesus, they eat better than me that I'm thinking about it. Che ci faccio cuoco io qui? Hey, listen, they're my babies and I do want to spoil them. And at this point in our lives, at this point in the relationship, but also at this point in their life, I have to, I understand that I could ease up on some of the other stuff because that's already done. You know what I mean? But in the beginning stages, especially when you're dealing with, starting the relationship with your dog, and that's really the key to what I want to discuss. And I might get into this on a separate podcast about, a relation, what a relationship with your dog is all about. But at this stage, and what, we could actually talk about that at this point too, because it kind of ties in with, the proper way to love a dog. Because at the end of the day, a dog human relationship is just that. It's a dog human relationship. It's a relationship, much like a husband and wife relationship, father and son relationship, mother and son relationship, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But especially I want to put this into, like partnerships, like husband and wife type situation, boyfriend, girlfriend type situations, that kind of relationship when it's 2 parties that come together to become one, right? And so each person, each individual has different ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. So when it comes to our dogs, the proper way to love a dog is to understand what they require, number 1, as a dog, and number 2, as a specific breed. Now, some breeds, yes, they require certain things, but most of those things that they require as a breed is physical stimulation, like shepherds, like cattle dogs. They require different types of physical stimulation. But overall, the foundation is basic. They require, like I said, the physical and the mental stimulation side, or what I call the work component, which could be mental and or physical. They require the second component, which is the rules. It's giving them and establishing and enforcing directions, boundaries, and limits. And the third component is the reward, right? And the reward is basically everything, right? So most people, they reward too much, too soon, and that's it. So now, if we have those 3 components of work, rules, and reward, and we are providing one, maybe some of the other, maybe none of the other at all, is that formula in balance? Are those 3 in balance? Hey, see, we're going to finish barking for balance. Life is about balance, guys. It's all about balance. So when we're trying to balance everything out, how do you love your dog? Do you love them by rewarding them? Because if you do, you're not providing them some of the other things that are necessary, right? Don't think that it's a problem, because a lot of times people believe that putting rules in place or correcting their dog for doing something, even if it's simple, that becomes a problem. That the dog won't love them. The dog will trust, love, and respect you. So it becomes a three-prong approach. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get our dogs to trust us, to love us, and to respect us, right? So let me reverse those a little bit. So it's love. We want them to love us. We want them to trust us. We want them to respect us. That's really what we should want from our dogs. Okay. Now here's the thing. The first one, love. I got news for you. That's automatic. That is not something. That's one of the beauties of dogs, is that we don't have to do anything for them to love us. They just do it. You know what I mean? The second component, which is the trust, that, my friends, we got to build. They got to trust in us. They have to trust that we can provide for them. They have to trust that we can protect them. They have to trust that we can give them directions. That's our job, right? The third one is respect. And the respect is like, they have to understand that there is a hierarchy of authority. There is a way of behaving. We have to set expectations for them. And if we don't, then they're going to just do whatever they want. Right. So you want to think about it like a parent-child relationship, like a boss-employee relationship. You know what I'm saying? So in order to understand what that means is that everything has to be in balance. Everything has to be in proportion, you know? So a lot of times people will get let's say well, let's talk about two different scenarios here. The first scenario is a dog that, they got as a puppy. It's a dog, or even like, they just brought this dog in. This dog was well behaved. And a lot of times I hear this from my rescue associates where they don't understand how all of a sudden, their new adopters or the fosters are having problems with this dog, where basically they had them beforehand that everything was fine. Yes, it's possible. And I'll tell you why, is because when they were in an environment where they had structure, they had that formula of work, rules, and then reward being put into practice, then those dogs were behaving properly because they were filled and they were happy and they were being dogs, right? So now they come into this new place and these people are just dog lovers. And I'm not going to criticize anybody for being an extremely loving person, who wants to spoil their dog's rotten. Absolutely not. But again, if you want that dog to be fully balanced, you want everything to be in proportion, then you have to have some of that. You know what I mean? Because if you don't, then those dogs are going to behave differently and are not going to be productive members of society. As small as Chihuahuas or as big as Mastiffs, it does not matter. They're dogs. They still require the same principle of directions, boundaries, and limits. They still require work. They still require rule. They still require reward. So it's always those three things in proportion, not one more than the other, and the other one, we don't need it. At some point, again, like in my situation with Socks and Pepper, I don't have to worry about the work component anymore. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry about enforcing the rule component as strict as I used to be, because there's a foundation. And if they're pushing the envelope a little bit, as long as they don't push it past a certain point, it's not a big deal, because they already understand that there's a certain level of behaving and how my expectations are for them. As far as the work component, the mental and the physical stimulation, we've gotten to the point where their energy is drained. So there's no need for me to take them out on these long walks like I used to. Listen, when I first adopted Socks, and let's talk about that when it ties in with this whole putting labels on anything really, but in this case, obviously, we're talking about dogs. So we'll talk about some dogs. So we're putting labels on dogs, and it's really upsetting to me when I hear this, and I understand why. Like for example, rescues need to do this, but I try to fight the battle with just people in general when it comes to putting labels on, because I personally was in that position where if that label would have been slapped, then I wouldn't be in this position personally. But I also know that Socks, my pit bull, would not be where he is now. And the reason why I'm saying this is simple. So what does that mean? Let's not put labels. People put labels on dogs where, for example, like when it comes to a specific breed, okay, this specific breed is not meant for everybody. And don't get me wrong, I wholeheartedly believe that to a certain extent, okay? I also believe that there's a lot of misunderstandings or bullshit information, or just false knowledge, or whatever you want to call this. But the fact of the matter is that when I adopted Socks, okay, and for those of you guys that don't know my history, I was afraid of dogs till I was 28 years old. Overcame my fears, but then I was completely against pit bulls and Rottweilers until I started watching The Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan, who educated me not only obviously on the reality of pit bulls and Rottweilers, but also on dog knowledge and dog education. And that's why we're here now, is because of Cesar Millan and my watching the Dog Whisperer and reading Cesar Millan's books and so on such. So when I watched the show and I learned the reality of pit bulls and Rottweilers, I decided I wanted to adopt a pit bull, and I wanted a bad one because I wanted to rehabilitate him based on what I learned from the show. Oh my God, this guy learned something from a show. He's going to copycat it. Yeah, and that's why we're here today. So for the old people that don't believe in Cesar Millan's philosophies or the whole system of establishing rules, or they believe in the tricks and the treats and then the sit, stay, lay down people, fascite zoccovolite, do whatever you want. Anyway, I don't want to digress with this. Let's stay focused because no is moving in the air, but I'm going to go down this road and start getting all carried away. So let's stay focused. Balance. Let's stay balanced. Okay. So, I decided to adopt a pit bull. And when I took Socks in, Socks was terrible. Socks was 10 months old. He had been returned to the shelter 3 times because of his behavioral issues. And he was only 10 months old, came up from Virginia when he was 7 months. So you could imagine, the situation. And here I am. And I don't know, some people would always, tell me, and they tell me that the rescue, the shelter, that adopted him out to me was irresponsible and stupid and should be, whatever. I don't think that's the case. Whether they saw something, maybe they knew something, I don't know, but they took a chance. This is how I see it. Or maybe God made him take a chance. I don't know. God always has a plan, and this was his plan. Again, Socks made me, and he needed me just as much as I needed him. That's basically how that works. So maybe God made them adopt them to me. But here I am, living in a condominium. So I do not even have a backyard. I have zero dog experience, right? My only dog was Peanut, who's, you can see a picture if you guys are watching me on YouTube. And if you're not, make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? So you'll see this beautiful face, not just hearing the voice. But yeah, so Peanut is, he was the little puppy back there. That was really the only dog I had. That was my only experience, my only exposure really to dogs. So here I am bringing home a pit bull. Jesus Christ. And I had a tough time. I'm not going to lie, I had a tough time. And I used to walk him 3 times a day for an hour and a half each time. That's what I did, and I busted my ass, until we got to this point. This is how we unleashed the Pac-Man. This is how the Pac-Man was born, So, if that were the case, people could have looked at me and labeled me as this, immature, person who's trying to adopt a pit bull. You're irresponsible. All these labels could have easily been put on me, and I'm sure that some people believe that I'm irresponsible for even wanting to, that I'm immature for wanting to, that I'm, really good looking. Hey, come on, that's true. But you know what I'm saying? And maybe they were right. I don't know, but you have to look past the outside. You know what I mean? You have to look past the outside, because I was determined to do what was necessary. And that's really what I look for in my clients, is that level of determination. I always tell them one simple thing. I can give you the skill, but I cannot give you the will. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I could give you the skill. I cannot give you the will. And so in my particular case, I really had no skill. I had no experience, but I had the will. And the will, was tough to hang on. I mean, we'll talk about that in a second. I talked about this on other podcast episodes, but it was hard. And so now we look at me personally being labeled this guy, no experience, no exposure, definitely no nothing when it comes to pit bulls. He has no experience. Forget about dogs, but with powerful breeds, with this specific breed, I saved Socks's life. Let's put it out there. Not only did I save his life, but I made him perfect. Okay. And I'll take full credit for it, because that's really where it comes from. Granted, Cesar Millan made that happen. God made all this happen. So I guess it's a team effort. But the bottom line is, not only did I save his life, but I also made him great. Made him happy, fulfilled, and well-behaved. That's the magic formula. He was already trained from the shelter. He knew how to sit, stay, lay down. Wasn't really, didn't do it the right way, but whatever. But he knew how to perform the tricks. But now that's why he was returned 3 times to the shelter, because he knew how to sit, stay, lay down, but he didn't know how to behave. He didn't know how to be calm. He didn't know how to be, not aggressive. I mean, that's the thing. So now we look at the other side of this labeling, and we look at Socks. Okay. So now we look at Socks as he's a pit bull. Okay. He's a powerful breed. Okay. He's aggressive. Okay. He needs a strong, powerful person who knows what they're doing. Okay. Would that powerful person have been able to handle a dog like him? I'm not sure, because Socks was tough. I'm not going to lie. Socks was tough. And the labeling that's put on him. And again, I'm looking at it from a different side of people that have been put in this situation, aside from people who were not lucky enough to be me in this particular scenario, because then you look at a socks and you're like, yeah, we can't adopt him to this guy. Or you reverse it and you tell this person these labels that we're putting on socks. Well, listen, socks is a pit bull. Socks is aggressive. Socks is tough. Socks is stubborn. Socks is this. Socks is that. And that person's looking at it like, you know what? That's a little too much. I don't want to take that risk. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem with labeling, is the labels are scaring people away from dogs that should not be labeled a certain way, because, you know, and I know there's people are going to disagree with this, and I don't really care. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, we put labels on dogs. We are condemning those dogs to death. We are sentencing those dogs to death. It's a fact. Okay. Putting a label on a dog that is aggressive, that is fear aggression. Everything has aggression. It's fear aggression. It's disaggression. Everything's aggression. Here's the thing. I'm going to reveal a little secret about this particular label called aggression. It's bullshit 99% of the time. Okay. A lot of times dogs that are labeled as aggressive just because they've bitten once. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with other factors that lead to a bite, because I know that a dog that bites obviously is a problem. I get it. Okay. I get it. But it doesn't mean that a dog that bit is aggressive, right? So a dog that gets aggressive, they tratta come uno stecchino. You know, they'll suck the meat right off your bones. Okay. I have exposure to that. I have scars to prove that. Okay. From legitimately aggressive dogs. When it comes to putting a label and we put an aggressive, you know, a growl, a snarl, the little Elvis lip thingy that dogs do, right? Even a snap, people automatically label that as aggressive. And naturally, when we hear the term aggression or aggressive, we're going to shy away from that. No, I don't want to deal with that. Or, yeah, that's not that. I don't care. And if you have incompetent, stupid ass dog trainers who are sit, stay, lay down trainers, and you approach them with these kind of problems, you know what they're going to tell you? That dog needs to be put down. That dog has genetic issues. That dog has problems. Those things will never be able to be fixed. And again, I know this firsthand because I've had clients that were in that position. Okay. So now you're sitting there talking to the pros who are saying this stuff. Well, they're thinking, well, I guess this dog needs to be put down. This dog needs to be returned. And now we have labeled this dog as being aggressive. We put quotes around it as being aggressive. Who the hell's going to want that? No, you're not going to want that. Okay. So we have doomed this dog, where the fact of the matter is that 99% of the time, the reason why dogs bite is simple. Is because they don't have the structure. They don't have the leadership. They don't have directions, boundaries, and limits. Again, I know that it's going to be, well, there's some dogs that are prone. That's another problem. Okay. Labeling specific breeds pisses me off like you cannot imagine. Okay. When we label specific breeds as this dog, this breed X is difficult to housebreak. This breed Y, is stubborn. This dog, breed Z, is aggressive. Think about this. Okay. These are the same people that will label different types of dog. Well, this dog is prone to this and this dog is prone to that. And all of a sudden they're defending the pit bull because the pit bulls are the ones that all of a sudden have been labeled as dangerously aggressive dogs, right? That's the issue here. So see how we put a label, like a generic label. So now pit bulls as a whole, especially for those people that are either stupid, stubborn, or ignorant, they automatically, and I'm in that category. I used to be in that category. I believed the hype. I believed what was being said. I believed what I saw on TV. You know, all the bites are from pit bulls. That means pit bulls are the devil, right? If you see it all the time, after a while, you're going to pick up on a pattern. You're going to say, maybe that's the case. Maybe pit bulls are bad. You see what I'm saying? So we can't do that. And the reason why they develop these issues, we'll talk about, again, pit bulls who have been labeled as such, but other dogs get labeled the same way. You have people who need to be educated. And I feel that if they are educated the way I was being educated from watching The Dog Whisperer and from Cesar Millan and reading his books, was what was necessary to fulfill the dog and the breed. So when we're dealing with like people who have, issues, for example, with like German Shepherds or any kind of like cattle dog type breed, I don't feel that these people should be not be getting this type of dog, right? Because they have to be able to, and they have to be willing and able to fulfill those dogs' needs. So if we label, well, this dog requires, a strong authority figure. Okay, that's fair. But in essence, every single dog requires a strong authority figure, right? So, we have to teach humans what is needed. And we have people that are very, very loving, very, very caring, very, very sweet, but that's all they got. They don't have that assertive side. They don't have that authoritative side. Then you have people who that are in the opposite extreme. They're just too authoritative, too tough, right? So it's not balanced. It's not a balance. And if you have like a couple type dynamic and one of them is too soft and weak and the other one is too strong and firm, everything's out of whack because that dog's living in between going, what the hell's going on here? You know what I mean? There's no balance. Together, if you fuse those two people together, yeah, they're balanced, but it's not a balanced household. You know what I mean? Like parents, they need to be in sync with each other when they're dealing with their kids. You know what I'm saying? If one is different than the other, those kids are like, let me see what I could do here. You know what I mean? So that's the problem. That is the issue. So when it comes to like properly loving a dog, when we love a dog, we have to provide work, mental and or physical, rules, directions, bounds, and limits, and then tons of reward, right? But it doesn't make a difference as far as like the labeling is concerned, what kind of dog we're getting, because automatically, whether you're getting a Chihuahua or whether you're getting a Mastiff, the pattern stays the same: work, rules, and then reward. This way you have no issues. You want to do the training classes? I'd agree at this. Spend your money on that. It's fine. It's little tricks. It's cool if you're using that as part of your dog's life. I did it. I went to training classes, right? This was before I was doing this. Would I go again with another dog? Sure. Now, granted, I would probably be the one to either teach those classes or have somebody else within my team teach those classes. But there's plenty of people that are good at this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing wrong with it. But if that's all you're doing, then you're not loving your dog properly. Okay. People will bring a dog in, again, who is clean, right? Has no problems whatsoever. And they'll bring them in and they'll spoil them to death. Just like I was talking about before about like they're at the rescue with these particular people who are giving the dog structure, and all of a sudden, no problems. Take them out, bring them to this other household, no structure, tons of reward, nothing else. Love, love, love. And now the dog is biting people, chasing, jumping, acting aggressive. It doesn't have to mean an aggressive, like biting necessarily, but it could be just misbehavior of whatever type you want to describe it, whatever type you want to choose. Okay. Any type of misbehavior is what they're displaying, where beforehand that wasn't the case. Well, what's changed? Simple. One household had structure and work, rules, and reward. The other one didn't. The other one just had reward, love, 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 right? Because these people just want to love the dog, right? They just want to love the dog. Now, again, when we're going back to a relationship, a human dog is a relationship. So a dog needs specific things from their human. And the human, listen, I'm in that boat too. I love dogs for a specific reason. It's how they make me feel. That's really the bottom line. How dogs make me feel is why I love them so much. And I hear this all the time. Person walks in the house, the dog comes right to me. I love, he loves me. My wife doesn't even say hello to me. My kids don't give a shit about me. Okay. Che posso nato, you get a divorce. What do you want from me? But that's how they feel because they're giving them attention. But here's the problem. At what point do we fulfill what a dog's looking for? Right? We are loving them. Oh, absolutely. We're going to love them. Right? But when do we address them as dogs? Remember, dogs are not human. Okay. Dogs are dogs. So dogs are not eyes or ears driven. They're nose driven. Therefore, we want them to behave as dogs. We want them to think and feel as a dog. Right. So if you're talking, and again, listen, I do this too. I talk to my dogs like they're people. Right. But I understand that they don't have a clue that they're what I'm saying. but they're looking at me and they're licking my face and it makes me feel good, right? That's what they're doing for me. But what I've been doing for them? Simple. Work, rules, and then reward. Again, we go back to, the way things were. Mental and physical stimulation needed, right? Establishing directions, boundaries, and limits needed. I needed them to know what my expectations were for them, what their job is, what their duties. This way they could just relax. Look, if you do things the right way, your dog's job is simple, just to hang back and relax. Vita de cane. The life of a dog is beautiful because you have to understand that when it's done right, they have nothing to do. They can relax because you're going to take care of everything, much like a child. Think about it. I mean, I remember thinking back when I was a kid. Jesus Christ, it's interesting. If I would really like to go back to those days when you had no worries in the world. You didn't have no worries in the world. Why? Simple. Because your parents took care of everything for you. You know what I'm saying? They did everything for you. You had nothing to worry about. Lovely life, right? And that's where we want our dogs to be. And just relax. You don't have to announce and bark at everybody walking by the house. You don't have to attack somebody coming through the door. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to bark and claw and jump and bite, and you don't have to do any of that stuff. Your job is just to relax, because I'm going to fulfill all those needs, and I'm going to fulfill those areas that are causing you to behave that way. Okay. Dogs live with anxiety, with fear, with nervousness, with tension, with anxiety, with aggression. And it all stems from not knowing what path to take. It's that simple. A person will bring a dog home, right? And let's say this dog has some issues, okay? And we don't know why those issues. And a lot of times people assume the worst. They automatically assume that it's because of the fact that they were abused, okay? And that's why the dog is behaving or feeling or acting a certain way. And I can tell you 99% of the time, that's not the case, okay? There's no abusive situation. A lot of times, those are just a lack of overall structure. The reason why a dog is behaving badly or biting or being aggressive or even fearful to a certain extent, it has to do with those areas. Now we'll talk about a fearful dog and especially fearful dogs that could go different ways. So we'll discuss that another time. But people will bring a dog in, a trouble dog, right? Maybe a dog that maybe was legitimately coming from a bad situation. Maybe came from a puppy mill or hoarding, whatever. They came from a legitimately bad situation. And what ends up happening is that these people, loving people, caring people, kind people, awesome people, they feel bad, right? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to do everything in their power to make up for all that time that this poor dog spent in hell, right? So in their minds, that means no anything. You do whatever you want, right? There's freedom to do literally anything and everything that they want. Okay. Now, I could tell you from experience and having been down the path of seeing these cases is that these dogs are the ones that become aggressive or mean or nervous or fearful or whatever, and they start biting people, they start attacking people. And it's like, well, I don't understand. When they first came home, they were so sweet, she was so kind, he was so sweet, he was so nice, this and calm. And that's the problem, is because now they're in a different environment. So dogs also continue to be, if they were fearful, anxious, nervous, or whatever, that kind of compounds. So they're trying to move past that life. They're trying to move past that time. But what we're doing is we're keeping them in the past because we're not allowing them to move past it, right? We feel bad for them. Oh, the poor baby. Now our energy is weak and soft and very, very negative, right? But the poor baby was suffering. Listen, the poor baby was suffering. That was the past. Now, if you think about it from our personal lives, how would you feel if you were going through some terrible situation and now some of your family and friends were keeping you in that? Yeah, but don't forget what happened. That's a tough deal you're dealing with here. That was in the past. Where you are now, it's nowhere near that situation. These dogs are not in that environment anymore. These dogs are in a different home. So the fact that these people, and again, I mean, they're loving, caring, sweet people, kind people, they're trying to overcompensate. And when I explain this to people, they're like, wow, I didn't realize that. Yeah, because that's what we do is we keep our dogs, in that mode. We keep those dogs in that moment, which is not a good moment, right? We need to let them go past that moment. So as much as we think that we are loving them, we're not, right? We're actually continuing to make them suffer. Make sense? Right? So we have to learn that establishing directions, bounds, and limits, they go from our household, from that environment into our household. We have to set the expectation. Okay. It's like going to a new job. You go to a new job, there's expectation, there's systems, there's ways of doing things. And we have to learn that way of doing things. Okay. So this is important on the proper way to love a dog. Remember, like I said before, a dog human relationship is just that. And our job is to fulfill that dog's needs and wants, right? And dogs are very, very basic when it comes to needs and wants. One of the lines that really I hear often is, listen, I've had dogs I hear this almost multiple times a day, which really annoys me, but I've had dogs my whole life. Okay. And that's great. But just because you have had dogs your whole life doesn't mean that you know or understand dogs. Listen, I've had a heart my whole life. It don't make me a cardiologist. You know what I mean? So having experience and exposure to dogs doesn't mean you understand it. So it's kind of like the same thing that all of a sudden, if you're in a relationship, so if you're in a relationship and you've been in multiple relationships, maybe multiple marriages, and all of a sudden they all fall apart. Well, if you have, let's say, like a husband and wife type dynamic, right? And let's say the husband has been in multiple relationships with various women, maybe married before, right? Now he enters a relationship with this specific woman. Now, yeah, he has experience and exposure to women, but if you think about this logically, men and women, different species, same species, do they think differently? Right? Do they act differently? Come on. Do they? I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying here. You know what I'm getting. It's the same species, but it's like two different minds. So our job, my job as a man, is to make sure that I understand and cater to what the wife's needs, wants are. Okay. It's not about what I think or what I expect, because if that's the case, if she's fulfilling my needs, but I'm not fulfilling her needs, it's a one-sided relationship, right? So that's why, like with dogs, I always say when dogs like run away, I'm like, listen, that dog's trying to get away from me. That's a divorce right there. Sign them papers. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not fulfilling that dog's matrimonio finita. We're not fulfilling those needs, right? So again, if you had exposure and experience with women before, right, and now you're entering a relationship with a different woman, it doesn't mean that woman, the new woman, is exactly like the others. So we have to understand what that particular woman needs, wants, and desires. Same thing with dogs. If you have had experience and you only have, I don't know, chocolate labs, and I actually had a client who was in their 80s and they had nothing but chocolate labs their entire life. And guess what? They encountered the one chocolate lab that was different than the others. And they're like, I don't get it. What the hell? And then all of a sudden in their 80s, they learned about dogs. They learned about labs. They learned what exactly is needed. And they were like, wow, we got lucky with all these other dogs, but this one's actually teaching us the reality. Yes, because if you do the right things, whether you get a good one or you get one that's going to test you, the bottom line is the bottom line. You're always going to be successful. Whether you get a chocolate lab or you get a pit bull, or you get a Rottweiler, you apply the same principles, you're going to be okay. If you just want to love your dog, think about it like this. If you have a child and all you do is you just buy them phones and cell phones and video games and shoes and whatever, kids are getting these days, I don't know. Is that a balanced child? How's that child going to grow up? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So when it comes to properly loving a dog, remember, it's about work, rules, and then reward in balance, everything in proportion. The other thing is, the labeling thing, really, we need to stop putting the labels on these poor animals. We need to stop putting labels on people. Now, I get where the rescues have a problem with it, because a lot of times people are either going to lie about what they're doing, or they're just going to not fulfill those obligations. So I get it why rescues have to be really, really cautious. I'm thankful that God, hooked me up when it came to socks, that he didn't allow, the labels that I had on myself. And I also didn't allow the labels that the socks had on him, affect me. And that's part of the issue. When it comes to specific dogs. Again, I hear this all the time for people that have like knowledge when it comes to dogs or specific breeds, oh, this type is this and this type is that. Listen, pit bulls are bred to fight. That's what they were bred for. So if we don't channel those instincts and redirect them in a more productive way, then that's what they're going to resort to, because that's what they're made for. You know what I mean? Rottweilers are guard dogs, but in ancient time, they used to be sheep herders, So why is it that we have, let's say, like cattle dogs, for example, and people label the cattle dog, well, those cattle dogs are dangerous. And I tell people all the time, listen, cattle dogs have a specific task, have a specific job. And if you don't drain that energy, fulfill those instincts and those needs in a productive way, then they're going to become frustrated. And out of frustration, there's chaos, frustration. And that chaos could become aggression, the biting. It could become digging. It could be the jumping. It could be all sorts of different problems, the basic behaviors that people try to eradicate. But it all stems from the fact of the matter is that if you don't fulfill that area, you could be putting rules in place. That's great. You can give them the reward. That's great. But if you're not fulfilling the work component, that's a problem. Maybe taking them on a walk, that's not enough. Yeah, that's not enough, because they need more. Huskies and Malamutes, they need more than just a 20-minute walk around the corner. You know what I'm saying? Just get down to business. Just such a vibe. You have to give them more to do to drain those instincts. So you got to give them a job. They need a job. And jobs could be as basic as, and I talk about this on different podcasts, and I talk about this on our YouTube videos, which, by the way, subscribe to the YouTube video, and also make sure you subscribe to this podcast. God damn it. I really want to know your opinion. What do you guys think of this podcast? Is it cool? You guys getting something out of it? Because I really want some feedback, but make sure you subscribe. Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, and Spotify. And it's also on YouTube if you want to see this beautiful face of mine. And then the YouTube channel, Packman to the Rescue, and Facebook and Instagram, Packman to the Rescue, Packman. Okay. To the rescue. So getting back to the fulfillment, I talk about this on other videos and on other podcasts. Put a backpack on a dog, agility courses, swimming, treadmills. It's additional ways, more fulfilling ways to stimulate the brain and the body to drain the physical and the mental energy. That's really the key. It's not about making a dog tired. That a tired dog is a good dog crap. I don't buy into that bullshit at all. A fulfilled dog is a happy dog. A happy dog is a happy dog. A well-behaved dog is a happy dog. Is a happy dog. If we're looking about happiness, then you need to follow that formula of work, rules, and then reward. That should be your focus. Okay. Me estás entiendo? Me siento no. Oh, that's the key. Okay. So yeah. So the whole labeling thing, we put these labels on the dogs. We're talking about cattle dogs. Cattle dogs, oh, they need, they require this, shepherd, they require. Listen, if somebody's willing to put in that effort, then I don't see a problem with why they can't have these kind of situations going. And again, I get it, because there's a lot of irresponsible people out there that don't do their research. But the part that pisses me off when it comes to the labeling is more like the psychological labeling. Chihuahuas are naturally aggressive. Come on, that's such bullshit. The whatever are stubborn, or this one, they're prone to what the. No, that's not the case. Huskies, and we'll talk about Huskies. Just a quick example. Just heard this last week. Huskies are prone to take off. As soon as you open the door, they'd run. Okay. But don't other dogs do that too? Well, yeah, but they all of them do that. Bullshit. And I could tell you that I have had multiple dogs, not just Huskies. I've had French Bulldogs. I've had Pit Bulls. I've had all sorts of different types that do exactly the same thing. Now, for Huskies, their job is to run. Their job is to pull the sleigh, right? So if they're doing that, that means you're missing something. That means you're not fulfilling one of those three: work, rules, and then reward, right? So whether it's a pit bull or a beagle or a husky, makes no difference, because they'll still do the same shit. That's because they're not getting everything in balance. Me estás entiendo? The balance of work, rules, and then reward. You hear what I'm saying? So let's stop labeling. I really bothers me when we start labeling dogs and we start labeling people. We start labeling people as, this one lives in an apartment. Who gives a shit? Listen, I live in a condo. I didn't have a backyard. And quite frankly, here's the problem with backyard. They don't do anything. They're just for playtime, but we'll talk about that another separate time. I think I have a video on YouTube about that altogether. But it's the individual. It's if we put a label, then we're putting a death sentence on these dogs. Socks was returned 3 times. Okay. He probably went to houses. Maybe he went to mansions. I don't know. Maybe went to families. I don't think he ever went to a household with kids. I don't think so. But he was returned 3 times. Okay. Came to me. No experience, no exposure, minimum to nothing. Picaniente. Dogs, exposure and experience of dogs. Pit bulls, forget it. None whatsoever. Powerful breeds, 0. And here I am. Here I am. You know what I mean? Here I am. Socks, labeled as aggressive. Returned 3 times. You see what I'm saying? How would you see that? Well, this guy lives in a condo. He's afraid of dogs. He was 28. Yeah, I don't know about him. Yeah, no exposure to these kind of breed. Yeah. And this guy's aggressive. This guy was returned 3 times. This is not a match. Are me and Socks an exception to the rule? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. Again, maybe there's a purpose. I believe that there's others exceptions to the rule too. I'm not the only one that's in this position. I know for a fact, dog wise, Socks is not the only one, because I've worked with tons of dogs that had been labeled, some that were scheduled to get put down and returned simply for, labeling purposes, from ignorant people, from stupid trainers, people that don't want to put in the effort, that don't want to put in the work. Listen, I get it. But it doesn't mean that that's reality. It's just what's presented to you is going to be seen as reality. And then you just buy into it. That's personal choices, but the labeling, it's not necessary. We have to take away that word aggression. Again, 99% of cases are not aggressive. Now I understand and I tell this to everybody right off the bat, is when a dog bites, even though it may not quote unquote be aggression, it's not seen favorably. You know what I mean? And, I tell everybody this all the time. Pit bulls, unfortunately, have a target painted on their back the minute they were born, right? The minute they are born, they have a target painted on their back. It is what it is. I still have people that are terrified of Socks, whatever, no matter what level of explanation, no matter what level of education, it ain't going to make a difference. So people are going to believe, are going to see what they want. But the bottom line is that your job is not to worry about what they think. It's to worry about what your dog does. And if you want your dog to not be seen as that, then you have to make sure that you address him or her and establish directions, boundaries, and limits. You establish, you fulfill and you drain the physical and the mental energy. And then you can give them tons of rewards. I never have to teach clients how to do the third one, the reward part. Love to hear your input on that one, but never have to do that. I always have to focus on the first 2, especially the second one, establishing directions, boundaries, and limits. That's really the one I have to focus on the most, but again, that's really the key here is loving a dog is great, right? It's a relationship, but if it's relationship that's just based on that, you loving them without, fulfilling everything, then there's parts that are empty. And, it's not a balanced relationship, because your dog, my dogs fulfill the areas that I need them to fill. And usually it's just the one, for me, it's just, and I think it's for most people is just to feel that love, to feel that emotion. That's really what dogs, bring to the table. That's really what dogs do for us, is they make us feel happy, and that's what dogs do to us. So they're fulfilling our needs, maybe it's the feeling of being wanted, of being loved, whatever the case may be, but it's all part of that same umbrella. But they also have different needs, and it's not just a love. You know what I mean? It's not just a love. So, people love dogs too much, too soon, and in the wrong way, and at the wrong time. Okay. Now, too much, I don't want to say too much, because how much is really not the case. It's more only, let me say that, just only, not too much. Because listen, the more love you give them, the better. The more, the better. I couldn't give my guys more love than even if I tried, which I try. Sometimes I try to do myself. But the bottom line is that if it's only love, that's a problem. If you love them at the wrong time, that's a problem. If you love them in the wrong way, that's a problem. You know what I mean? That's the key, is just the love is a problem. We have to balance this out. And this way, again, if we're talking about like just pit bulls, my job with him is to make sure that people see the reality of what pit bulls are, what pit bulls can be when things are done the right way, because this way we can start to get rid of this freaking label that pit bulls are horrible. Ita fucking cool. And there's still people that believe that. They got bit by a pit bull, they've seen it, whatever. Listen, if you have a bad oyster, doesn't mean oysters are bad. You know what I mean? You just had a bad oyster. You got the diarrhea and you vomited and you went to the hospital. Okay, it was a bad oyster, but it doesn't mean oysters are bad. See what I mean? But, unfortunately, the labeling is really the problem, because now it becomes a label. Oysters are terrible, and humans are very psychological that way, where, you have one bad experience and all of a sudden you're just, you're done with the whole category. So listen, it is what it is. But the fact of the matter, like marriage, for example, or relationships in general, and I'm sure you guys hear this too, and, tell me if that's the case. You'll have friends, female friends or male friends, whatever, y'all women are horrible or men suck or whatever, is that the reality? Or maybe just your picker's off. You know what I mean? Maybe you're just, your decision-making monitor is off. You know what I mean? You're making the wrong choices. You're looking for the wrong things. It has nothing to do with labeling men as horrible or women as horrible. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Given that, if you've been married once and your marriage was a shit show, I had one of those, and it doesn't defer me. It doesn't tell me marriage is a bad thing. It's definitely not what it does. Oh boy. But doesn't mean that marriage is a bad thing. It was just, that marriage, that relationship wasn't right. So we move on, but when it comes to like dogs, and you're labeling a specific breed that way, that just sucks, and not just the pit bulls. I'm talking about anything, I'm talking anything and everything. It's just, we have to stop labeling people and or dogs a certain way, because then we're just putting things, and I hate to say this again, but it just, me and Socks are that example, labeling the human and labeling the dog. And if you had done that, then this would not be good. And I'm sure that as I was, if I look back and I look back and I kind of see some of the other dogs as I was trying to adopt a pit bull, I'm sure that I could find some of those rescues that were actually labeling me personally and why I didn't get some of those dogs, because they saw my personal situation. Like, yeah, this guy's not getting a freaking pit bull. You crazy? No, I'm sure that's the case. But regardless of the fact, it doesn't matter, because the guy I got, the dog I got, was the dog I needed and the dog that needed me. So God had a plan. It's a fact of the matter. So, listen, guys, bottom line here is, what's the proper way to love a dog? Simple. Establishing directions, boundaries, and limits, working the brain and the body, and then love them to death. I'm not even going to tell you how to love them. Knock yourself out. If you do the first two, the third one, have fun. Whatever you want, treats, food, affection, attention, love, whatever you want to do, knock yourself out. But there's got to be work. And if you guys have any questions on work, mental and or physical, please let me know. If you guys have a question on establishing directions, boundaries, and limits, how to do it, what's necessary, when to do it, whatever the case may be, please let me know. Okay. That's how you love a dog. That's how you get that relationship to be solidified. Human, dog, dog, human. Love, trust, and respect. Love, trust, and respect, dog to human. Love, trust, and respect, human to dog. It's a beautiful thing. And now it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. That's one of the things about, sending your dog to like a training place to train them. There's no relationship. I don't even want to get into that, but if you're going to get a freaking dog, it's a relationship, and you have to cater to that dog's relationship, that dog's needs and wants as a dog, but also as a breed. You know what I mean? So let's stop with the labeling. Let's love our dog the right way, because dogs are awesome. They teach them so much. They teach us so much. They teach me so much. That's why I love them. And I love doing this job. And that's why I try to teach people. I train people, not dogs, guys. Come on. Have you not subscribed to the podcast yet? Come on, what are you waiting for? Speed it up. Subscribe. So make sure you subscribe. YouTube as well, Facebook, Instagram. Come on, speed it up. Okay. So bottom line, love your dog the right way. Okay. Let's stop putting labels on people. Let's stop putting labels on dogs / animals as well. So this way we could all coexist and just be happy. We could all be fulfilled. We could all be successful. It's not a competition. It's not about egos. Unfortunately, the dog world, the animal community, whether it's rescue or training, there's just a lot of just hatred and animosity and just egos. Unfortunately, it really sucks because they're the ones that pay the price for our stupidity and our arrogance, and it really sucks. So let's stop putting labels. Let's do good here for them. Let's learn from them, be like them, and it's all good. You know what I'm saying? And it's all good. Listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Barking for Balance. If you guys have any questions, any issues, I really want to hear them. I really want to know how you feel about things. I really want to know, what I could do to help. And I'm here for you. It's about training people, not training dogs, guys. Don't forget. Thank you for listening. I'm getting a little emotional. I'm just thinking about the past with socks and everything. So it's a little emotional there, but listen, thank you for joining this episode of Barking for Balance, and keep me posted on any questions or issues. And thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day. Catch you guys next time on Barking for Balance. See you next time.